listeners, to another interesting episode on the BizBlend podcast where business meets bold ideas and hustle meets heart. Now, today's episode is really interesting, listeners. Meet Kirsten Marion. She's here on BizBlend to share how self published authors can successfully market their books and also find their audience. So, with that, let's quickly dive deep into this. So, Kristen, welcome to the show, and it is really an honor to have you with us today.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, okay, Kristen, before we talk about this topic, if it's okay with you, I would love to know from you. From a corporate world to now, self-publishing and working on marketing, helping other entrepreneurs and business owners market their books. What was that pivotal moment which kind of, gave you the idea to, transition into a different, industry or different phase of your life?
Oh, that was partly my own decision and partly not. I was CFO of a hospital and I loved my job.
Mhm.
And it was a big job, obviously. Um, but my husband took a position overseas. So I eventually, once the kids were in university, I moved to join him. So I had to give up my job. Um,
Mhm.
my corporate job, and I had been writing off and on since I was very young, uh,
Mhm.
but, you know, life took one of its funny little turns, and I ended up, going into finance and accounting rather than English lit and writing. So,
Mhm.
when I moved, it gave me the opportunity to think, "Well, maybe this is the time to transition. I need something to do. And this would be a really good use of my time." So that's how it started. And so I wrote my first novel, uh,
Ah.
which was very bad, and it's still languishing in my computer. But as I kept writing, I kept getting better. And then in 2017, I had an opportunity to buy a small publishing company. We had moved back to Canada by then. So I thought, oh, this would encompass my business experience and my love of books. So I bought into this small publishing company. We publish kids' books, but publishing books is publishing books. It's the same no matter whether it's fiction, nonfiction, or whatever. So I learned a great deal about brand management and developing brands for different authors and producing and marketing their books. I was still doing that, although I'm in the latter stages of that. I don't think I want to keep doing it for too much longer
Mhm.
because now I want to publish my own books, and I feel I've learned enough that I can publish my own books, which are adult books, fiction. And
Uh-huh.
The Chic Crone is the first one, and it was just released in March. So I've learned a lot about the difference between marketing books for other people and marketing books for yourself. And there are differences. Um,
Mhm.
and I've made mistakes. And so hopefully through our discussion, maybe I can help other people avoid some of those mistakes, especially the expensive ones.
Mm. Wow. I know some of the best parts of what you said just right now that struck a chord with me is number one, Kristen, your first novel, you said it was bad. We have this fear of fear before when we start something. Whether it's doing a podcast or uh, building a product or drawing something, singing something, dancing, any field, that I'm going to do bad. I'm not good at this. But it's okay. Your first podcast episode, my first podcast episode was bad. I fumbled. In fact, the guest, actually taught me a few things that you should do this, you should do that. And instead of feeling a bit egoistic or bad or judging myself, I took them with me. That okay, thank you so much for giving me that feedback because you know right now there are not many people who will give you constructive feedback. So it was really such a great opportunity to take those feedbacks with me. And secondly, I absolutely admire that, the mistakes that you did or whatever you learned, now you are helping others to avoid them. Because yes, I completely agree, it can be really expensive. So thank you so much for sharing this, Kristen. This was really great.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, I believe in the expression "fail forward."
Mm.
So, um, you go into anything new, whether it's building a business or writing a book, you're going to get better. You don't start out the best at anything. I In any area, you have to keep working at it, developing, and finding a mentor or finding people who will give you constructive feedback, I think is critical for developing any kind of product, or a business. So I've been lucky. It sounds like you've been lucky that way, in finding helpful people. And as soon as you're open to them, they show up.
Yeah,
Uh,
that is the condition there. As soon as you're open to, that is the condition in there.
and I think it's also important to remember that it's always just somebody's opinion. A book review is somebody's opinion. It
Hmm.
doesn't have any reflection on you as a human being.
Yeah.
So I think, especially for creatives, it's really easy to conflate who you are with what you produce. So I think separating the two um, is really important.
So, so beautiful. Okay, so Kristen, let's get to the basics. So please tell us, you know, some of the biggest mistakes that self-published authors generally, I mean, you have observed or you have, gone through them making.
The first I would say is you don't need all the bells and whistles that people are going to be more than happy to sell you. As soon as my book was being reviewed, I got all these emails selling me these different platforms where you could create social media posts, where you could create artwork, where you could do this, where you could do that. And they all have an annual fee. So that's one thing you don't need in the beginning for sure. The other thing is there will be a lot of book marketing, quote, specialists, unquote, who will promise you that they will get you X number of reviews. They will do X number of social media posts. They will do this, that, and the other thing for you. You don't need that. You don't need a fancy website. What you need to start is something that represents the type of writing that you're doing, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, and write a blog, a weekly blog. The reason a blog is important, oh, I have 5 things. So why don't I tell you the 5 things I have and why I've chosen them and why they're in the order that they're in.
Mhm.
So the first is a blog, second is a book cover, the third is a newsletter, the fourth is podcasts, and the fifth at the bottom of the list is social media. So The first 4 are really important because they're shareable, they're evergreen. Social media posts come and go in a remarkably short period of time. I think something like 20 hours and they're
Mhm.
but a podcast link or a blog link, I have people searching for blogs I've written 2 years ago. So they last and you own them. Social media algorithms can change any time, so you have no idea if somebody's seeing your post or not. So a blog would be top of my list because it helps you build community.
Right.
And for any author, having your own people is really important because then they become your followers and they buy your subsequent books. One thing I will say from the outset, this is not as true for nonfiction as it is for fiction, but your first book is rarely enough, and it's rare that you will make significant money on your first book. It's your second, third, fourth book where you start building your momentum. Even J.K. Rowling didn't start hitting big numbers until she'd published the third book of the Harry Potter series. So it takes time to build that momentum. So writing a weekly blog, and it doesn't have to be a lot, but about your topic or about your writing process or things you've learned about the industry or tips or even a mistake that you've made can be really helpful. The book, and it also starts building your brand. And having a brand in any business is key. Any business owner knows this.
No doubt.
And you have to think of yourself as a business owner when you're self-publishing. Book cover is super important because it tells the reader right away, or it should tell the reader right away, what the book is about. They can guess the genre or the topic, fiction, nonfiction, whether it's health or cooking or how to repair transmissions. I don't know. And it also reflects your brand. For example, my brand is cozy fantasy with older, for the older reader, about women having midlife adventures. So my book covers will reflect that. And your book cover lasts as long as your book does, unless you decide to change it.
Mm-hmm.
Newsletter comes next. And this is where people can start feeling like they're getting a little closer to you and getting some special things from you because your blog is completely public. Anybody can search it.
Yes.
But your people, your real followers, will sign up for your newsletter. And you can share things like chapter releases before a book is out, short stories or special articles that you've written that nobody else is going to get, special things with them. Um, Podcasts. Now, this is newer for people, and I'd love for you to weigh in on this one too, and what you've learned from people that you've interviewed, because podcasts again are evergreen.
Yes.
And you can share them in your newsletter, in your blog, on your website. And they give the guest an opportunity to add more value for the potential reader. And that's the approach I'm taking with doing podcasts. Rather than saying, buy my book, buy my book. What can I give back that is useful for the listener?
I think what from my experiences interviewing or conversing with authors, I think podcast gives a voice, a face to the book. I mean, yeah, of course, blogs and newsletters, they of course, are resonating in terms of sharing maybe snippets or some behind the scenes, of the journey that the author embarked upon when he or she was writing the book, something interesting or something very surprising that they got while writing the book, whether it's their own story or, something else. But I think podcast read gives the intimate um, the face to the book, the author, making it easier to connect personally with listeners. And it also, of course, build credibility. It builds credibility as well. um, and it can spark or boost direct interest in the books. And of course, if you talk about the numbers, then it can also expand your reach. Maybe with blogs or newsletters, you are trying to reach or you are able to reach people who are present online. But then with podcast, it's a voice, it's your face, it's your human presence in there. So I think it definitely expands the reach. And then, there can be additional stuff in there where the guest or the author can read excerpts from their book, or maybe the observations they did while researching, or, while the self reflections they had during writing the book. Maybe it's mistakes or it's the learnings they had. So yeah, I think from my end, that's what I believe.
I think that's really true. It certainly gives social credibility for sure.
Yeah.
And it does give you a more intimate view of the author. I think you do. I've listened to lots of podcast interviews with authors, and I always feel like I knew the person a little better than I ever got from text. Um, it's text is static. There's no dialogue.
Dialogue, correct.
Yeah. Whereas with podcast, um, there's an opportunity to go a little deeper, to ask more questions, to follow up on a point, which I think is really important because some surprising things can, come out of those discussions for both the host and the guest and the listener. Uh,
Exactly.
it's not as structured as a text document.
Exactly. And Kristen, I don't know. I mean, it may not be true. I'm, not, it's not kind of, I'm judging. But do you think, we see that every book is a best-selling one, every book is on the top or something like that. That's what I see. And then there are many, these agencies, they reach out telling that, we will get you the best selling and everything to boost SEO and everything on, platforms like Amazon or Audible or Kindle or uh, other platforms. Do you think that's a sensible step to take for any first time self-publishing author or any entrepreneur who wants to get into this?
No, I don't. Um, SEO has become a real glamour buzzword, and it's pretty tricky stuff to manage. And as an author, you don't want to be spending all your time doing that. You want to be spending your time writing your content. In terms of bestseller status, many, 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 many books can, for a day, be a bestseller in their category on Amazon. And there's a way to figure out how many books you need to sell on a particular day in that category to hit number 1 in that category. So, yes, lots of people have had bestsellers, but it's been for a day on Amazon. So, I think there's a lot of misleading information about that. And as I said, for most people's first book, initially, in the first year, does not make a lot of money. And I'm talking possibly a couple of $1,000s. So, you don't wanna be engaging these services or these programs that promise to boost you, um, in the algorithms. A really good free way, not the car thing, the no cost way, um, and it's not used by many self-published authors on Amazon, is they have something called A+ pages. And if you set up A+ pages for your book, it's a way of you bringing, highlighting reviews, quotes, or, top, uh, underlined sentences in your book, or anything that you wanna highlight about your book in a colorful way on your Amazon book page. That will keep people on your Amazon book page longer, and, uh, the longer somebody's on your book page, the greater chance you have of that visitor converting to a purchaser. Because you're giving them more. You're giving them something additional, something special, and people like that. So, I would spend your first year building your, um, following organically, as opposed to trying to jumpstart it using these fancy programs, because they overpromise and seriously underdeliver. This is the voice of personal experience.
And it's really interesting. Like SEO has been over SEO'd.
It has
Or like,
it has because it's, eh, it's a full-time job to get it right, to optimize it, and that's not where you should be spending your time. That's n You're not gonna get the return on investment from that you get doing some of the other things that we've talked about. It may show your stuff more to people, but it doesn't necessarily engage them. And the goal is to have engaged readers, not that it comes up on a Google search. Does that make sense?
absolutely. Absolutely. And Kristen, one point you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that as you were on the journey of publishing your own book and now you are helping others to do that, there is a difference in there. I would love to know what kind of different, experiences you have gone through. I mean, what differences do you see there?
In what I've done and what I hope other people do?
Yeah. Yeah. Like you are helping others right now. So, um,
Yeah,
being-
I think to just focus your attention on building your community.
Mhm.
Don't scattershot with the latest shiny thing. And this is where I made my mistake in the beginning. I thought if I bought all the products, that would get me where I wanted to go. And that's not true. You don't need all the products. What you need is a willingness to engage with readers and potential readers. And that comes from giving them useful content, both in your books, just creating the best products that you can. And that doesn't matter whether you're creating a dress or a car or um, a book. It's the quality of the product will get people coming back for more of your product. So yeah, don't get sucked into the shiny object syndrome. As I call it. And that does mean all these marketing people who promise you a bestseller and yada yada yada.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. And then this is not only for books and in podcasting also, that we help you with social media, we'll help you with this and that, we'll help you with getting XYZ amount of number of listeners or listenings. But I think that's short term. It doesn't sustain. It doesn't sustain. Something which organically grows, even if it is small in the beginning, it might be a bit of demotivating for you, but it's going to be there. It's going to be there. It's going to sustain you. So, yeah, I totally agree with you, Christina.
Right. I think this is an issue, particularly in North America, where we want instant gratification, instant results. Lose 10 pounds in a week, make $1 million by next year. It has to be right now. But that's not the way it works. And then people get really, as you say, demotivated because it's not happening instantaneously. So if you go into it with the expectation that this is a wall you are building brick by brick, except in books about magic, you just can't snap your fingers and have a wall. So, um, just focusing on producing good products and standing behind your products and being the sort of person that people would like to engage with. That goes so much further than any shiny object.
True. And before we wrap up, Mr. Now, there's a belief that self publishing lacks the credibility of traditional publishing. So, do you think it's a valid point? I mean, has that stigma changed or is it still a real challenge when marketing?
I think that's changed completely. Um, I I don't see any remaining stigma as long as you're producing a good product, as long as you're taking the time to write good content, have it edited, get a good book cover. You can do that as well as any traditional publisher can and put more thought into it because it's your baby, not theirs. Some of the best-selling authors out there now are self-published. Traditional publishing has become very closed. Um, there's been a lot of consolidation of publishers in the last 5 to 10 years. Uh, it most of the power is held in the hands of a handful of publishers now. So, I would say you have a much better chance of doing well, self-publishing now than going the traditional publishing route,
Hmm.
and I've done both. I've had books published traditionally, and I'm now self-publishing, so I do have some experience in this.
So it's been there, done that.
Mhm. Mhm. You certainly have a lot more control over your outcomes when you're self-publishing.
Definitely.
But then you have to own your own mistakes too.
That's the caveat there.
That is the caveat. But learn. That's all. Everybody makes mistakes. Um, we have a new prime minister in Canada, and he has said outright, "I'm gonna make mistakes, but I will own them and I will correct them." And that's all any of us can do.
Wonderful. Lovely, lovely, Kristen. That was really, really such a perfect conclusion to this conversation. And before we wrap up, if our listeners, especially the ones who are now deciding or embarking on the journey of writing a book, sharing their gift with others, and planning to go themselves into this, what's the best way to do that if they wish to connect with you?
Oh, I'm on the socials, but they can also connect with me through my website. I do answer all queries through the website. Um, I have to tell you, I'm not great on social media because I find it a rabbit hole, and if I go on it to do stuff, well, there goes the morning. Um, so probably through my website, and I do have a series of blog posts planned for the next 2 months on, um, self-publishing and the author. So they might find that helpful as well.
Great. I'll make sure to have the links in there in the show notes. And Kristen, thank you so much for this honest, such an insightful conversation. And you really, really, help us, r- understand that reinvention is powerful. It can be messy, but it is powerful. It is empowering. And book marketing, although it's part hustle, but it's definitely art as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Sana.
So, listeners, that's a wrap on this episode of BizBlend. In the end, I would just like to mention that don't just write the story, learn how to share it. And I'll have all the resources mentioned provided by Kristen to connect with her in the show notes along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. So until next time, stay bold, blend smart, and stay tuned for more such conversations on BizBlend. Thank you.